Hey, this is John Kevill from Warbringer, and you are listening to Brutally Delicious Podcast.
Brutally Delicious!
Hey, you are listening to the Brutally Delicious Podcast live from the quarantine compound. I can't speak. I'm Bruce.
And I'm in another quarantine compound because we're not allowed to see each other.
We are
Chris.
socially distancing.
We are socially distancing. We won't even dock.
Right. I have no idea what to do with that one. But at any rate, today we are going to be speaking with Warbringer. John Kevill, the vocalist. I guess I pronounced his name right. You had a chance to listen to these guys?
Oh, killer thrash band.
Yeah, I'm an old school thrash head, so I'm totally into this. And again, it's Napalm Records. Our friends over at Napalm seem to hook us up quite a bit.
And they have like this old school thrash sound, but they're kind of a more modern band.
Oh, yeah.
Which is cool.
Yeah, and whatever. I mean, I'm definitely old school thrash. I mean, that was like the first kind of metal I really got into, like the old Exodus, the old Testament stuff. And from there, it's kind of always had a soft spot in my heart. So it'll be great to talk to him.
I understand. So,
yeah. All right. If you want to hang on 1 second.
On my porch doing a slew of interviews, which has been the number one thing keeping me occupied in this current state.
I do have to apologize because I suspect this problem that we had connecting was Chris's fault.
Okay. I mean, dude, I was sitting here for like 5 minutes reading shit on Reddit. It wasn't really a problem for me.
Yeah, but it was still Chris's fault. So.
No, it's always Bruce's fault. So there's one thing that you have to learn about Bruce before we start this interview. He's kind of a little technologically inept, and then he tries to blame it on me, who owns a software company. So this is kind of what happens.
Oh.
Yeah.
I see.
But
he also thinks a hot dog is a sandwich.
On the flip side, I have that podcasting voice like Barry White. I think sometimes that there are a lot of babies being made when I'm podcasting.
Oh man!
Welcome to the Seinfeld of metal podcasts.
The Seinfeld. Where's your slap bass?
If you want to hang up, I totally understand.
No, I'll give you grace on that one, man. But next time, if you're going to use that line, have the bass, have a button with the bass ready, man. It would be.
Yeah, you're right. You are 100% right. So let's, if we jump into Warbringer, your record is like what, a week and a half out, a week out?
Yeah, give or take.
What is it going to be like?
April 24th. April 24th. So it's the 13th or the 14th today.
Yeah. So what's it going to be like releasing a record in this sort of weird flux state we're all in?
Well, shit, we're going to find out, aren't we? So I've never released a record during the coronavirus pandemic before because it hasn't happened before. So we're going to see how this goes. Hopefully, fingers crossed, basically, the record will fly on the strength of the music and songs and all that, and that people will want to listen to it. I mean, as a guy who writes the songs, that's kind of what you have to do at the end of the day is hope people like it. When you put it out there, the market gets to decide. So we'll see what people think. So far, I mean, I think it's a hell of a strong record. So I really hope that that carries it. People say, "Hey, this record came out and it's good." I think that ultimately the strength of the songs is going to have a lot more to do with the success or failure than like any clever live stream media idea we may have. Or at least I hope that the songs matter, shit.
Yeah, I was just listening to The Black Hand Reaches Out, and it fucking slays, dude. It's so good.
Fuck yeah, that's the idea. Slay everything in sight all the time. That's sort of our
awesome. So let me just get back to what we were just talking about just for 1 second, then we can move on. But in an era where we are like all locked down and doing that thing, and the record's out there and people are finding about it. Are you doing anything? You're not touring. You're not doing in-store. So are you doing anything like online to interact with your fans or do any sort of thing like that?
Well, part of what I'm doing is stuff like this right now, where I'm doing 2 or 3 of these interviews, podcasts, blogs, journalists, anything, basically anything that comes through the Napalm Records press office. We have a wide open schedule. So we're doing it all. So every single day, interviews written and like audio and video, the whole nine. So that's a big one. I'm spending I'm almost full time on that. It feels like
Right.
these days. So that's really cool to see that much interest in the record, to be able to fill up that much time in my schedule,
Right.
which has nothing else in it right now. So there's that. We also did something pretty cool that I think is a little unique. We made a documentary about ourselves and the record, specifically the record, more.
Right.
And we're calling it The Science of Thrash. And what we did here, we tried to do something cool. Basically, I always hear in interviews and stuff, what's your process? How does the band approach writing songs? So on this one, we tried to not only talk about the songs, but every little bit displays the process of who had what idea when, what led to what, how did we actually mechanically write the songs. So we're calling this The Science of Thrash because it's behind the record, but we went to a pretty extreme level of detail. I wrote like a 17-page treatment for the whole thing, and I wrote the thing top to bottom because I was there writing the record, so I wanted it to really reflect the process we had, and that's something kind of cool and unique, I think. And I think the band has a lot of like layered ideas in its songs, so we really wanted to bring that to the forefront. And so that's coming out pretty soon. We already did an episode on the Black Hand Reaches Out and how that came about.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's cool,
so what
man.
you mentioned it. Is there a message or a takeaway you want your fans to walk away from after listening to the new record?
Pretty much, we just want to give everybody like a really kick-ass thrash metal record with very well-written songs. I'd say that the overall theme of the album title and stuff is a fear of tomorrow, a fear of the future, a fear that technology and the power of modern civilization might make, a darker tomorrow and not a brighter one. That's the overarching theme of the record. And even some of the historical stuff it goes into are times in the past where that happened,
Right.
like the advent of industrial weaponry in the First World War and the mass slaughter that happens, or Heart of Darkness gets into colonialism, which is basically one civilization is industrialized, the other one isn't. So
Right.
you can, so the one that is industrialized can do whatever it wants to the other one, and sure enough, it chooses to be cruel.
Yeah.
So these kind of things, it's about times. So it's either about future times where technology could change the world to be worse, or times in the past where that's already happened.
Right.
And kind of looking at that as an overarching theme.
And you couldn't have possibly had this in mind when you couldn't have possibly had this in mind when you started, but a lot of it's like super timely considering our times now, right?
Well, I actually wrote a lot of this. So this record was, some of it was written 3 years ago, actually.
Right.
So you might think that, but you're actually incorrect. I wrote a lot of this a good minute ago. Some songs, particularly that had been around for a while, Firepower Kills, Glorious End, those were both written on the same trip. I went to an old Western Front battlefield called Ypres, and found a guy who died 100 years before the day I was standing there that had something pretty much just like my last name. It was Kevill with 2 E's. So pronounced the same, spelled a little different. And he was in the British Army, which Kevill's an Irish name. The Irish would be in the British Army at that time. So I'm like, oh man. So that just hit me really heavy. And that night I went and wrote all the lyrics in my head. They sat there for like 2.5 years, and now we just released it. So that's one. Other ones that like sat around for a while beforehand, Crushed Beneath the Tracks was a title I had like 5 years ago that finally found a song and a riff to like live with. So the ideas come from kind of everywhere. But it wasn't, we actually recorded this whole record in July. So I think the sense of just kind of fits with our themes in general. Because we're never talking, like Warbringer never writes a song about like the time society just functioned really well and everything went really smooth. That's not a Warbringer song,
Yeah. You seem like a history buff. Are you a history buff?
I'm trying to be a professor.
Oh, nice.
So I'm not there yet. So don't say, oh, and the guy's a history. Sometimes people make that mistake. I don't, compared to actual professors, I'm not there yet. But I finished my bachelor's degree like directly before we recorded Weapons of Tomorrow. So just this like last summer. And then I'm gonna, pretty much tour on this record and then go back in for my master's. And I think after that, I'll be qualified to teach at like a community college level, and I'd like to start with that. So
Nice.
it's a great companion piece for these last few records. I started my studies after Empire's collapse, and it's given me just a ton of shit to like write about.
Yeah.
Heart of Darkness was I read the novel of the name, and I read all this stuff about the Belgian Congo. God, it's horrific. You wouldn't say Belgium, you guys of all people. Jeez.
Right.
So if you want, but the way this fits into my Warbringer thing is this. You're going to write aggressive, evil music. It should, the themes are going to be something aggressive and evil. So why should I use some like made up shit? Why do I need to use like Satan, who I regard as basically a cartoon character?
Right.
Or why would I need to use like, just kind of the stock, random, like action movie, cartoonish violence? That's a real fucking thing. I'll talk about the real stuff. And I think that gives us this kind of deeper emotive side than you typically think of for thrash metal. Even though we're just raging the whole time, there's like a soulful tinge that gets in there because we're raging about real stuff that I actually am really horrified and appalled at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bruce?
So I have gone, and this is not about Warbringer at all, but you just mentioned it. I have gone back to school in the last year and a half, I guess, Chris. And just for no reason at all, just because I wanted to. I'm studying philosophy and religion, and I'm horrified about a lot of that stuff too. It's kind of crazy. And, I have no reason.
Yeah.
There was no reason to do it. I'm not doing it to go be a teacher like yourself. I'm just doing it because I'm interested in it. And I can't believe some of the things like I didn't know about that. I'm like, holy shit, we really did that kind of stuff.
Oh, dude, the amount of stuff that I didn't know is staggering.
Yeah, right.
I imagine
and you don't know you didn't know it
again in a couple more years.
Yeah, I'm digging it. So that's kind of cool. And I guess you could probably do a lot of it online if you're touring, right?
Typically, I mean, I really actually don't like online classes. I really like to be there. I'm the guy who you wouldn't think it for the dude who plays in a metal band and just, I also have been a pothead since I was like 16. But no, I wasn't that great of a student like in high school and stuff. I was more interested in like learning about heavy metal at the time and starting my band. But now I'm actually pretty damn good. I go back with a really different mentality. And, I really like to be there in person because I can pretty much hear about whatever the hell they're talking about. And I can go and pick the professor's brain after kind of whatever ideas or theories I have about whatever we're talking about. I can bounce it off of them and basically see, oh, yeah, that's right. That makes sense. Or hey, but you might want to look at this, and get that feedback loop going. And I do really well with that. And I remember everything. I never have to... I never write down lyrics or anything.
You're a better guy than me then.
I just remember it all.
Well, that puts the pothead myth to rest.
Yeah. The pothead myth is
memory works.
No. It doesn't. It doesn't. So what it does is this. I'm really good at remembering the shit that I'm basically already interested in. But if you want to like tell me, oh Christ, just mundane shit that I got to do throughout the day, you're going to have to remind me like 6 times. Like, hey, dude! My fucking wife, dude. Poor, God bless her. She, she's always like, remember to put your socks in the hamper. For the 300th fucking time. And that kind of stuff. So I can remember everything about like this whole litany of different battles and how they connected and how they showed tactical evolution throughout whichever war we're in and all of that shit and the geopolitics and all these little stories from within it too at the micro level. And then I'm like, where the fuck did I put my keys? So
nice.
Human minds are weird like that because I think every fucking person on this earth, their brain is a little lopsided like that in some way or another, in some way unique to them usually. And, it's fucking interesting, So I think when we talk about, if you ask a question like, what is intelligence? You actually get this really complex, multifaceted thing. Some of the dudes in my band that I work with don't have, like I'm the guy who's reading all the fucking academic books and shit. But some of these guys have this way with music and notes and tone that I just can't even dream of having. And tell me that's not intelligence. I don't have that. So I think the mind's just fucking fascinating, and different people, like the different strengths that their brains can fucking bring to the table is wonderful. And honestly, as much of an active role I have in the songwriting as I do, I absolutely could not make these songs without some of the other fucking guys I'm working with who I regard as something of geniuses,
Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
Chris?
Well, to be honest, Bruce started this podcast and he asked me to join it. And I was kind of new to metal. I didn't really discover like heavy metal until like 2011 or so.
Okay.
When I went on a heavy metal cruise, 70,000 tons of metal.
No, cool.
Yeah, which is cool. It changed my life, and it taught me about, when you're outside looking in at metal, you kind of see anger and aggression and all this stuff. But when you get on the inside, you find out that it's really just love, and everyone's taking care of each other, and it's extremely friendly. How do you deal with, I don't know how exactly to phrase this question, but I guess, do you find that within the metal community as well?
Generally, yeah. I mean, any community's got jerks and assholes in it, but metal as a whole, I think, when you, like a concert setting in a metal show, Black or Death or Thrash or whatever, some extreme shit, pretty happy setting. People are hanging out, having beers, like going, oh, between the songs and stuff. It's a riot, man. So I think that I think one thing that a lot of people outside looking in don't get about metal is how kind of you can simultaneously have this sort of outpouring of anger, aggression, and all that kind of stuff, and how it can like be cathartic, and how that catharsis can make it really fun.
Oh yeah.
Like I did a spiel earlier this podcast about how, I'm always writing about serious stuff that actually makes me angry and upset in the world. It's like, dude, I'm having a blast when we play our concerts, though.
Yeah.
Doing Woe to the Vanquished or something about the destruction of culture and and then the bloodlines and all of that. And, fun as fuck. I think just getting that out of me, getting that anger, getting that sort of sense of injustice at the natural order of the world. Let's face it, nature's brutal.
Oh yeah.
And none of us asked to be born. We just like landed here. No one exists on purpose. That show Rick and Morty says that, and that actually ends up being pretty philosophical for a cartoon. And so I actually I've been using that bit. I really like it. Just to describe kind of the sense of like, what am I supposed to be doing and all this? You got this like crushingly vast world, and you have, you got all these things going on. You have totalitarian states. You have like multi-billionaire corporate empires. You got, you have neo-imperialism and all of this shit going on in the world, and you're just like, and you didn't choose any of it. It all existed before your time, and you had no say in it.
Yep.
And no matter who you are, that's the world you live in. So I think just that is kind of basically living in an unfair, unjust world that is brutal by its nature. I think that's kind of the core impulse for why metal is so relatable for the people that are into it, but also kind of like looking the devil in the eye, so to speak, is tough for people. I think a lot of people get by in that world by kind of pretending it isn't there, where I think metal often sort of embraces like, look, that's what it really is, you know?
Right.
Takes the veil off of it and exposes it.
Yeah. And I think that you can actually like the feeling of doing that and like kind of going, at it, most metalheads that are, tend to be like pretty friendly, often like, often metalheads aren't like, are very, just accepting of whoever, and they're like, yeah, come have a beer, dude.
Yeah, right.
Kind of like that. And I think that there's a very basic friendly element to the culture a lot of the times. There's times where it's not any, that's true of any large group.
Yeah.
And just kind of that, if you're into this shit, you're with us, you're one of us, because I think also just the fact that it's seen so much as outsider music means that, like, you know, metalheads can always spot another one. You see the guy on the desk or whatever, and you just talk to him, and you're like, "Yo, dude, that's a sick." You know, you're wearing a fucking Symbolic T-shirt. I really like Thousand Eyes on that record. You know, I got a.
And it's like you've known them your whole life.
Yeah, and you can have a chat about something like that, and I think that that's probably a little different than if you're in mainstream world, because, like, I don't know. What's really popular shit? Let's say you're really into Taylor Swift, right? Do you really have that instant bond? I don't know. Maybe you do. I haven't been in the world of Taylor Swift fans, thank God. But I think with metal that definitely does exist. Or I think with any, like, niche subgenre where you can be like, this guy's into this kind of this guy or gal is into this, like, specialized interest I have. Let's talk about it. And most of the time people are like, yeah, dude, that record's sick. I really like how that, and people in metal too, they're passionate about their music. I think a lot of time if you get, like, people, I think a lot of people don't really care what music they're listening to, and they just like music in general. Yeah. I like the sound of music. I like popular artists in general. I think most people who are into metal are really, like, nitpicky and specific. And you get people that are like, I have the best story about this. So this is when we're touring in Germany. We're in Osnabrück, and it's our second record, Waking into Nightmares. Now, Waking into Nightmares is kind of like the first album, except it's even faster, and it's got some, like, death metal shit that's crept in. So it's like we didn't go soft. But this guy is there, and I remember, this is just about the pickiness of metalheads, and how they know what they like, all right. This guy was like, it comes to me before the show, and he, a German guy, he's like, hello, Warbringer. So I thought your first record was really so great, and it was the rebirth of thrash. And I'm like, whoa, thanks. But really, your second record was total shit. I hate it. And then at the show, this guy stands in the very front and center, right in front of me. It's a small club, so I'm like, he's right there, And we only have 2 records, so the set's about half and half. Every time we play a War Without End song, the guy's stage diving, circle pitting, going berserk. Anything from Waking into Nightmares, again, especially live, these songs don't sound that different from the first album. Right. It's like arms crossed glaring at me.
That's funny.
So that's just 2 different albums by the same band that didn't, like, change too radically. So people really know what they like. That's an extreme of it, but
that's funny.
I wasn't even mad at the guy. I was kind of like, well, I could relate to him, I'm like, man, because I've been that guy. I'm like, maybe not to that extent, but the guy who's like, I just want that metal, that magic that metal has, where it just grabs me and everything's perfect. And when it doesn't do that for whatever reason, even if it's just because of my own bias, I'm like, this isn't what I want.
Right.
Totally. Well, the reason I asked that question is because in 2011, I went on this metal cruise. I looked like a golf pro because I love golfing. And, like, I didn't own anything black. So I was, like, wearing golf shorts and a golf t-shirt, a golf hat, or whatever, right? I'm in the sun, and I'm hanging out one night, and I'll be honest, I was wasted. And
yeah, why wouldn't you be?
Yeah. And this metal band comes running by, and they grab me. Hey, come here. So I go with them. I don't even know who they are at this point. And they had stole a bottle, like a 60 of Patron tequila from the outside bar. And they had all these shot glasses lined up. And it was them, another band, and me. And we're just sitting there doing shots. And I'm like, oh, cool. Why are you guys here? And they look at me. And they're like, what do you mean, what are we doing here? I'm like, well, what are you doing here? And they're like, we're playing tomorrow. I was like, oh, shit, right on. What band are you in? They're like, what are you talking about? And then one of the other band members is like, oh, shit, I got to puke. And they ran to the garbage can and just ralphed in the garbage can. Came running back. They're like, give me more. I got to wash this down. And we just sat there.
Oh, brutal.
We just sat there all night shooting tequila and talking. And, like, they're a really successful metal band. And I'm just this guy that has never even experienced metal until that boat, really. And it just, it made me realize, like, this community is just so different than anything I've ever really experienced before.
Yeah.
So
I always thought that there was kind of a sort of like a, to use a communist word, proletarian kind of ethos to metal. And I think that it comes from the kind of blue collar factory worker roots of stuff like the new wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah.
It's an everyman music. It really is. It's
That's
about,
a great way to put it.
It's about the little guy, the guy who's been shit on. It's not about the guy who's got everything its own way. You don't hear metal songs about like, check out my mansion.
No, you're right.
Thank God for that, because if that's your song idea, fuck you. Your song sucks. Have a better idea.
My next metal for the next song, we'll be playing "I Just Bought My Third Lamborghini."
Right. That whole thing, like that being a thing where the culture in general is like, yeah, that's an acceptable thing to write in your song where you're like, I have money. Christ, man. Could you be less creative?
Right.
Like what the fuck else? I have a house. I sleep there. No shit. Great job for you. So is everyone else. Fuck.
Right.
Or like my house is bigger than yours. That's your song. Fuck you.
Nice.
Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe you should write a better song. Then you deserve it. Perhaps.
It's still there.
So that's how I feel about the mainstream culture. Is it's a ton of people pretty much stroking their own dicks in public and getting praised for it. So
that's awesome.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I don't have anything else, Bruce, do you?
No, that's pretty much all I got. Before we go, though, can you do a bumper for me? Name, band, and you're listening to the Brutal.
You want to close out on that cynical?
Oh yeah, that's the best right there.
Okay, let's end on something.
I feel, man, dude. That feeling though, that drives me to like. I'm like, what am I gonna do there for? I'm gonna do these thrash songs where you could fucking like, yeah, it's thrash metal, but you could dig into each and every song and fucking have like a page of shit to say about it, because there's actual ideas there and each one's different. And just fuck, what happened to writing songs that are interesting? Even the pop world used to have it, I think. Look at music, popular music in the 70s. There's great shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I look.
A lot of the radio rock in the 70s is the roots of metal.
Absolutely. I look at a guy like Dylan, and that guy had so much to say.
Yeah, sure. If you, or more from where you guys are at, I think Leonard Cohen too. Similar kind of thing where it's like the talky, poetic vocals. I'm into that. There's nobody like those. There's no one. That's such an American thing, and it's like just not. There's nobody remotely like it around today.
Yeah. Well, Leonard Cohen's Canadian.
Oh yeah. But the style, I mean, the
see.
style of like.
I'm just joking because I'm Canadian and I'm,
hey, you guys. Okay, you want some? Here's my. You want me to do an extended shout out to Canada?
Sure.
So here's everything cool I can think of to say about Canada that pertains to me or us in any way. First off, so I did all these songs like with First World War stuff. That Glorious End video, that's a Canadian monument there. The Canadian Corps on the Western Front is like kind of the best, probably the best couple divisions that any army has on the Western Front. They got this commander, Arthur Curry, who really knows what he's doing. So Canada, like, that's your hour of martial glory. And like, honestly, from studying all that shit, deserved. So there's that. Second, thrash metal. Razor and Sacrifice are two of the best ever.
Nice.
Particularly, I really like Violent Restitution / Shotgun Justice era from Razor. They're just fast as fuck. Mm-hmm. And I really like Forward Determination and Soldiers of Misfortune from Sacrifice. That second one in particular is underrated because it comes out 1990 and it's got some like cool prog touches on it in a brutal thrash kind of package. So it's a really so yeah. And then of course we do like straight up prog rock, so Rush gets played a fair amount around us.
Oh yeah.
You can't go
so there's some glory to Canada stuff right there.
That's nice.
Hey, I live in Virginia now.
I'll take it. Yeah. So, but I more or less view having toured North America a bunch. Canada's not so different, man. Unless you're in Quebec, it's like. You're in like a Minnesota offshoot the whole time. That's how I see it. Or Minnesota's a Canada offshoot, however you want,
Right.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Americans, they go like, oh, don't you know? They're kind of like that.
Hey,
you just dial that up a notch and you got Canadians. They're not that different.
Do I sound like that?
No.
Okay,
really.
No, even touch.
Hey,
you
don't you know?
You're not all like, well, tubular, dude, like I am, you know?
Nice. All right.
Oh, dude, that was such a good interview, man.
Thank you for taking the time. That was fantastic.
Good.
All right,
We try to entertain, man. I'm an entertainer.
No, that's great. We still need that bumper, though. Is it a good time now?
Yeah, let's. If you think we're done shooting the shit and fucking around. All right, what's the buffer? What a brutally delicious podcast.
Yeah. Name, band, and the brutally delicious podcast.
Related.
No, I know, but it's a long story because I actually have a heavy metal cooking show on YouTube, and that was first, and then this kind of was the second thing, and I wanted to keep the brand name together.
Ah, well, I do like cooking, actually.
Oh, you really?
Bruce is doing a quarantine series. You should cook for him.
I'm doing a quarantine series right now.
I'm out by my grill right now, actually, dude. So one thing that I learned that you can do, so getting like Asian food, like a good stir fry or a fried rice or whatever, it always eluded me, just something I don't have the magic touch or whatever. But then I got this grill, and the grill, you can take the middle of it out, and I got a cast iron wok, okay?
Oh, that's nice.
And so the cast iron wok over the coals on the grill is fucking glorious, and I've like leveled up all of a sudden. So I do broccoli beef and chow mein, and like broccoli beef and vegetable chow mein on the fucking charcoal grill in the cast iron wok, and it's super easy and it kills. It's fucking great.
When we get done with this, text me your email and I'll send you the all the parameters. It's real easy because I've gotten a ton of them coming in.
Okay. Well,
John, I want to thank you for taking the time, man. Be safe and good luck with the record next week.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much. Have yourself a good one.
You too, man.
Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.